Good morning all and welcome to this sellout. Yes, sellout. It Starts with Action Summit. It's very much my pleasure to be co-hosting today with the fabulously amazing investment editor of Business Desk, Francis Cook. My name is Tricia Edmonds and I would like to welcome now Sharron Botica, Chief Customer Officer at AIA New Zealand, to do our Karakia.
Morena. E aro mai tātou katoa. Hutia te rito te harakeke. Ka hia he ko māko iko ki mai ki aho. He aha te manui o tēnei o. Māko I ki atu. Hei tanata, hei tanata, hei tanata. Inari. Mō tēnei rā mā amua. Hei wāhini, hei wāhini, hei wāhini. Homi e hui e tai ki e. No mai haere mai aku manu huia, aku manu taki, aku manu taiko. Aku manu honore minita mō ngā wāhini jantiniti. Nā mihi mō te whakawātia, mai ia koto mō tēnei hui. Tēnei atu wainanga, it starts with action. Ki atu ai, mōri ora. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. So ko Sharron Botica taku ingoa, ko o tu tau tumuaki taki kiritaki mino mati hiko, excuse me, AIA. I am Sharron Botica and I'm the Chief Customer Officer and Digital at AIA Aotearoa. And it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you all with the Karakia. And I just want to do a quick translation for you all. For the first piece was a whakatauki. So that's the proverb which many of you would have heard before. It talks about the heart of the flax bush and the bellbird being able to feed from it, and by feeding from it, it spreads its seed. And the analogy is that the flax bush relates to people. So we need the heart to be growing. We need to focus on our people, our land, and in order to grow those seeds and embrace it means that we are embracing our future. And the question that's asked in there is, what is the most important thing? And the answer is, it is people, it is people. What I added in there, I said, but for today and from this point forward, it is women. It's our wahine, it's our wahine, it's our wahine. And then the second part, which was the mihi, which was to welcome you all to this important conversation today. It starts with action. To all of the spearheads within this room, which is each and every one of us, and how we can actually move this conversation forward. And also a very special welcome to our Minister as well, the Honourable Jan Taniti as well. So I will, with that, kia ora, thank you all, and I'll pass back to Tricia. Kia ora.
Thank you, Sharron. Thank you. So now it's very much my pleasure to introduce Richard Klipin, CEO, and Rob Flanagan, Independent Chair of the Financial Services Council. So Rob, over to you.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. I'm pretty well in awe a little bit. I'm the sponsor of this diversity and inclusion. And so I'm welcoming you today as the sponsor. I feel quite inadequate, I would have to say, and I'm just sort of overawed with the turnout. We've just got some awesome people in the industry, and these programs, if you like, just bring these people to the surface. And it's just been amazing. A lot of activity, a lot of great stories, great experiences. I'd like to just thank a number of people. Firstly is the board of the FSC and the FSC staff. They're 100% behind this program. I think it's been a huge success, and I say that because I haven't seen the results of which a session I'm really interested in. Has it shifted the dial? But I know everyone's very passionate about it, and of course then there's the actual committee, and they've been a force to be reckoned with, that's for sure. And very impressive, and a big thank you to them. And of course, I know a lot of other people have been corralled and brought in on the journey. So just a big thank you to all of you. It's been such a huge success. To me, the whole program, there's a couple of dimensions. Firstly, there's just the awareness. You need to understand for myself, and I speak personally, It's just a huge paradigm shift. And I thought I was pretty balanced. But I found that actually I was part of the problem. Well, I actually probably was the problem to a large extent in my world. But I didn't actually know I had a problem. And so the continual communication, the continual talking about it is just so important. Because once we understand what our behaviour or attitude is, at least then I can address it and try to start the journey. So it's a real journey, and it's a real challenge. So don't underestimate what you're actually doing by the continual communication, etc. It does make a big difference. And once you realise, as I have done, at least I can start the journey and make the effort. And it's surprising how that's enhanced my life by making those changes. The other aspect is, and it's a challenge to all of us in the room, it's one thing to talk about it, and that's really important that we talk about it and keep talking about these problems that we have with diversity. But actually, each individual has to take action. And the challenge, I think, over today is for each of us to take 1 or 2 points, time-bound it, make sure it's measurable, and do something in your own organisations or your own world of influence that'll make a difference. It's just so important. It's those little things that'll make a difference. And so it's a real challenge for all of us, but the journey has started. It enhances all our lives. It enhances our businesses. And for us accountants, it enhances the bottom line. So we all win. And also, it's actually really good for New Zealand. So it's a win-win situation. So it's just such a perfect campaign. So thank you for everyone that's been involved. Welcome everyone today, and I hope you enjoy the day and get a lot of value out of it. I'll hand over to Richard.
Kia ora everybody, wonderful welcome, support and endorse Trisha's welcome comments, wonderful Karakia and Rob's comments. 12 months ago roughly, the diversity and inclusion co-chairs Christy and Tracy came to the FSC board and said, we think there's something we can add. We see problems that need to be sorted. We think we need to establish a D&I committee, a diversity inclusion committee. The board was completely unanimous. We said, absolutely, let's go for it. And little did we know that the very wonderful Jane Wrightson, within a few months, would come and invite us to be part of her strategic plan. There was a wonderful cup of coffee that Tracy and Jane and I had, I think it was this year, or maybe it was very late last year, kind of lost track of time. But in that conversation, Jane put to us and said, look, we have a mandate for change, and one of the biggest areas of change is around financial capability for women in New Zealand. Would the FSC, would the sector want to get involved and help us deliver this? And we kind of did think about it. I mean, it was a wonderful opportunity, but we kind of thought, well, Jane, maybe that's your plan, not our plan. But actually, once we got over all that stuff, we said, no, absolutely, this is something that actually we should do together. And what's been so wonderful about this 3 months is that we've done it together. There are people inside the FSC, there are people outside the FSC, there are people in totally different communities, in academia, all around the countryside who have said, oh, we want to participate. And it feels like we've unlocked something. And so, you know, when the steering group sat around and said, what are the things that we want to do, you know, we weren't thinking like this massive thing. But you know, the first day of the campaign of launch, which is my second favourite story, you know, we invited Hilary Barry on International Women's Day to launch this event. And you should have seen the registrations going absolutely berserk. Sadly, we couldn't be in a room, although we probably couldn't have found a room big enough. But there were like 1,200 people that said, we're interested, we want to come and listen. And Hilary was just absolutely wonderful. We then launched the campaign, and on the first media release, 7 Sharp came in and said, thank you to the Sherson Willis team, said we want to find out a bit about it. And Riss, who you'll meet in a moment, who has led and driven this campaign with such mahi and such wonderfulness, ended up on 7 Sharp. And live interview, so those of you who've ever done live television, Riss has the cards, and if anyone's got a set of the cards, please feel free to just... Thank you. Okay, so Riss picks up the card and says, Hillary asks these questions. Riss says, can I ask you a question? Pulls out the magic cards, which we've printed for everyone, and picks out a random card and says, in this particular case, do you usually have money left over at the end of each pay? Discuss. And what's your attitude to money? And if your wallet could talk, what would it say? And if your kids could talk about money, what would they say? So it's filled with great questions. Anyway, Riss turned the tables and became the interviewer on Hillary. And I encourage you to go and watch it because it's all there, it's up online, and it's this beautiful moment because it's a very personal moment. And I think that's what Financial Capability Campaign ISWA has launched. It's a very personal conversation when you talk about money, when you talk about the future, when you talk about your kids, you talk about your goals and your aspirations. We in the sector know that it's never about money. The money is just a gateway. It's always about what it can do for you, what it can do for your whānau, what it can do for your community and so on. And I think that's part of the power that we've done. So there's absolute momentum for change. If we've done anything out of these 3 months, there's huge momentum for change. We want to do it. We want to do it together. We want to do it with everyone. We want to do it pan-sector. We want to do it minister with government. We want to do it all around the countryside because this momentum for change means we need to reach into the schools, Mark, all across New Zealand, into the communities and the families, and in that way we will absolutely lead and drive the change. I just wanted to quickly thank, if we just move a slide, there have been so many people that took a risk on us and came on board early on and said we want to support. Those are the brands. Thank you so much to those brands and to those organisations. Rich, I think maybe 100 organisations and people and community groups that have supported what we've done. And if we just move on to the next slide, these are the heroes of the campaign. You know, these are the people, the steering group of the D&I ISWA campaign. These are the people who've made it happen. Sadly, Christy, or happily for Christy, not sure if it's happily sad, she's across the ditch in Aussie, but this team has just worked so tirelessly and just done some brilliant stuff, and I wanted to publicly acknowledge them. And whilst we all own it, and we should all own it, this has been the leadership group. And if we then head to the next slide, and of course that leadership group has to be supported by people who then get out amongst it and have helped curate sessions, the 6 fortnights of thematics, the online sessions, the face-to-face sessions, the afternoon teas where you're sharing learning. It's just been absolutely amazing. So a huge thank you to those people, many of you who are in the room. And so in closing, I wanted to just announce the FSC Summit Declaration, because what we found is that this is not the end, this is the beginning. And the FSC board and the D&I committee are committing that this conversation with this Summit Declaration will continue on so that this work will continue on. We're going to establish a pan-sector working group. We're going to continue our work in literacy in schools. We're going to continue the conversation within the FSC and outside the FSC, and we encourage all of you to join this journey because we all own it. And with that, really appreciate you coming out today. It is so good to be in person with so many people and get that buzz and that vibe. And with that, I'm going to hand you back to the very wonderful and very capable Trisha Edmonds. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Richard, and thank you, Rob. Just talking about the media and the interest that's sparked with the media, I would like to acknowledge that we do have some of our media colleagues in the room, so I'd like to thank them for coming along.